Is clutter just stuff or is it something more? In this episode, we're exploring why clutter builds up in the first place and the deeper impact it has on your mental health, your relationships, and your daily life. If you've ever wondered why your space feels overwhelming, this conversation will help you understand what's really going on and why it matters. So let's get started. Hey friend, welcome to Modern Homemaker Mom. Feeling stuck in the chaos? Do you find yourself in survival mode juggling all the things? If you're ready to regain control of your home, schedule, and time for yourself, you're in the right place. Hi, I'm Jynae, a wife, mom, and homemaker who turned my household chaos into purpose with simple, flexible routines. I'm here to help you create a cozy, clutter-free home and reclaim your time for what matters most. In this podcast, you'll find episodes around home routines, cycle syncing, and self-care practices so that you can eliminate the overwhelm and create a home that you love. Go grab that laundry basket and let's get started. Did you know that the average American home contains 300,000 items? I thought that was wild when I looked that up to find out that fact. That's a lot of things. I think in this culture and time of the world history that we live in, there's this mindset that more is better, which makes it so easy for us to accumulate things that we really don't need. Like, think about how much we go out, how much you go out, you go shopping, and you're bringing things home that you didn't have in the house before. I mean, groceries, little trinkets, accessories, honestly, like so many different things. But how often are you taking things out of your home and downsizing or just getting rid of things that you don't need? Probably not as much as you're bringing things in. Also think about how easy it is to, right from home, pop on your phone, go online onto Amazon or whatever online store, and within minutes, you can have chosen what you want to buy. You can have run it through your cart. You've already got most likely your credit card's already connected. So it's just a press of a simple button. And in a couple days, even the next day, you have that item delivered right on your doorstep and you didn't even have to leave your home. I think it's funny. And I think there's a lot of moms out there who would relate to this, but us mothers who are up at all hours of the night with a newborn, and I'm guilty of this, I've done this. You are up late, the baby's not going to sleep, you're nursing, you're warming up bottles, you're changing diapers, you're changing outfits because they wet themselves or whatever, they spoiled their outfit, and so you're up in the night, and what do? We scroll on our phones, not all the time, but sometimes, and there we are at 2 a.m. ordering something on Amazon that we really didn't need. It's that late night shopping, and I've done this 100%, and I know that there's other women out there that have done it as well, because I've talked to women about how easy it is, like I said, to just go on your phone and order something. Like, how many of us are waking up in the middle of the night at 2 a.m. and going to the store and buying something that we didn't need? Probably not many of you. In fact, most stores aren't open at that time of the night anyways. So it's just, I think it's very eye-opening when we think about how easy it is to bring things into our home. And if you even think back to, I always say Little House on the Prairie just because it's easy, but like the 1800s or early 1900s, back when they lived in, if you've read Little House on the Prairie, a lot of the time they lived in a tiny four walls, little square home, and their living room, their kitchen, all the beds, everything was all in this one little room. Do you think they had room for excessive items? Definitely not. And so it's just so easy to allow ourselves to bring so much things into our homes that we, like I said, we really don't need. So I like to kind of reflect on times past, 100, 200 years ago, about how they lived, and I think of how simple it was. And I also think about how you don't read books about how stressed they were about overwhelm in their house. Do you ever think of it that way, where maybe the things that we have and having so much clutter is unnecessary, and it's bringing us stress in a way that we really don't need it to be, because we just have too much things. There's just too much going on in our home, and it's overstimulating. Think about a child who's left in a room with toys absolutely everywhere. They don't even know where to start with playing with their toys, because there's just so much option there for them that it's overstimulated. Children get very overstimulated very easily. And I actually think that adults do as well. So having a home that's cluttered with things laying everywhere, I think, is a huge culprit for why we feel overwhelmed and stressed out in the first place. So all that to say, I guess I kind of just jumped right into this and didn't really explain what my framework for this episode was, but I've broken it down into a few different topics, a few different points, I guess you could say, where we're just discussing why does clutter happen in the first place. And so everything I've just talked about would revolve around having excessive consumerism. And then the next point that I want to talk about is emotional attachment. So items that we have often carry sentimental value. Think about maybe a picture that you have hanging on your wall, or an item that someone made for you, or someone gifted to you, heirloom items that were your great-grandmother's, or, anything that has special memories tied to them. It's really, really hard for us to let go of things because we feel like we're losing a piece of identity or betraying someone who gave that item to us in the first place. And so what do? We hold on to it out of maybe obligation, or there just are some people, and I'm not saying that this is, I'm not getting down on you for it, but there are people who are very sentimental. I'm not one of those people. I mean, yes, I do at times feel sentimental, but I'm not one of those people that's incredibly sentimental, if that makes sense. But for people who are very sentimental, it's very, very difficult for them to get rid of items just for that reason. So one tip that I would give is consider how often that you're using a certain item in your home. Keeping it out of guilt is not serving you. So if you're not keeping it for any reason that's practical or for a way that actually is serving you, maybe think again, or just ponder if it really is something that you need. Because like I said, having too many items in our home is what brings on a lot of the stress and overwhelm to begin with. So if you want to put your mental health first and you want to eliminate overwhelm in your life, you're going to have to start taking those little baby steps into beginning to get rid of the things that aren't serving you. The third reason I wanted to say why clutter starts in the beginning, or to begin with, is procrastination. Decision-making fatigue often leads to pushing clutter decisions to later, but how often does later come? It rarely comes. I've found myself saying, yeah, I'll get to that later, and then it doesn't happen. So unless you have a plan of action that you're actually going to do that thing that you're saying that you'll do later, it's most likely not going to happen. For example, if you have piles of mail, unorganized closets, or as I've mentioned in an episode before this, that one room that becomes a catch-all space where you just throw everything that you don't know what to deal with, but you're going to tackle it later. No, you're probably not going to tackle it later. So what I would suggest you do is address a small area, just one area at a time, to avoid the overwhelm of tackling everything at once. Because having this big project on our mind that we're going to tackle, it's overwhelming. And so that's why we procrastinate and we just push it to the side. We keep pushing it off because it's too much to take on at once. So I always tell people, small steps, simplify in whatever way you can. If it means just one drawer or one area, one tabletop, start with that. Okay, and the last point I have for why clutter starts with in the first place is you have a lack of organizational systems. Without clear systems, even essential belongings can pile up and feel chaotic. I mean, this is a good question to ask yourself. Do you know where your most frequently used items are at all times? Nail clippers, your wallet, your car keys, your maybe pens and pencils, or certain files that you reference often. I mean, there's all sorts of things. It's going to be different for your home, for what it is for mine. But those things that you use all the time, do you know where they are? Does it have a spot that it gets put away? Or is it kind of just playing musical chairs, ending up in a different spot all throughout your home? Basically, what organization is just knowing where your things are and having a certain spot that it belongs and knowing where it is. Like, do you know where to find your dishcloths? Are they all in one spot, or are they in various spots throughout your home? Do you have various pairs of socks or shoes in one closet and in the entryway and in the back room or in the garage? Like, that's not really organization, because you're not really sure where to find that pair of shoes. You'd have to check all 4 of those spots before you could find that one pair of boots that you wanted to wear this day. So being organized, like I said, is having a certain place where items belong and you know exactly where to find that item when you need it. Okay, so now that we know why clutter happens in the first place, let's talk about the impact that clutter has on us. So first of all, our mental health. So here's a fun fact for you, in case you didn't know. Clutter raises cortisol levels. And in case you don't know what cortisol is, it's actually the stress hormone. And especially this really affects women who often feel responsible for managing their household order. So if you're in charge and responsible for keeping your house feeling clean and organized and peaceful and welcoming, when it's not that way, you feel, and I'm sure you're nodding your head with me, when your house feels messy, you feel overwhelmed, you feel stressed. That's because it actually, in your body, it's creating cortisol, that stress hormone. And so that's just the response, the reaction your body has to clutter in your home, because visual clutter overwhelms the brain. And that contributes to fatigue, poor focus, and difficulty relaxing in your own home. And here's another fun fact that I found. A UCLA study found that clutter homes directly correlate with feelings of unhappiness. And I really think that we can blame that on the cortisol in your body being so high because of the clutter and the overwhelm that clutter brings. Another thing that clutter will do to impact is the family dynamics in your home. Think about it. A cluttered home will strain relationships because it disrupts shared spaces and creates this tension about responsibility for the mess. Have you ever had someone comment about how your home feels messy, or they would really like it if the kitchen didn't always have stuff all over the counters, or I wish I could sit down at the kitchen table? And I mean, we're not going to get into how the communication side of things is. I mean, there's a right and a wrong way to approach things. But I mean, if people are making comments like that, that is one of the impacts of having a cluttered home, is people are going to make comments. People, your spouse, your visitors, your children even, are going to feel impacted by that clutter. An example would be parents struggling to manage kids' toys or belongings that their children have, which would make them feel stretched thin. It would make them feel overwhelmed, and it leads to arguments. How many times have you argued with your spouse over a small thing about a mess in the home, or the fact that they were frustrated, or that you were frustrated with the fact that you can't sit down at your kitchen table because it's a mess, or I can't find my XYZ fill in the blank because there's no organization? I mean, it's frustrating, and I get it. And like I mentioned earlier, clutter is very overstimulating. I can think of a handful of times where my husband and I had maybe a little bit of an argument just because of I was feeling overstimulated with a mess in our home. And there's these arguments that happen that really didn't need to happen, because there really wasn't anything that we were arguing about other than, the tension was high. And so when tension's high, people are irritable, and it just makes it so much easier for an argument to start because you don't have the patience. So trying to eliminate clutter just to keep the peace between members of your home is going to really help with that whole situation. So not in this episode, but an episode that's coming out here in a couple weeks, I will discuss the steps that you can take to start getting your house organized and in order and start decluttering. Actually, it might be next week's episode that I'm diving into that. But just to give you something to walk away with today, I just need you to realize and to understand that clutter doesn't build up overnight. Like, it doesn't. It takes time to build up over time. Like I said, you're bringing new things into your home and you're not getting rid of things. You're not tidying. You're not going about decluttering. So since it's this thing that accumulates over time, it's also not going to go away overnight either. So you just have to give yourself some grace here and realize that it's going to take time to get your home in order if you're willing to make the steps and to make the change. Like I said, I'm always encouraging people to simplify and to go about it in a really easy way so that it's not so overstimulating. I think the best thing that you can do with this in mind is just focus on one area, one category area in your home instead of trying to think about tackling the whole home. So when you get time to sit down and start decluttering, think about how, okay, I'm going to go to the bathroom. That's the category I'm going to focus. And while I'm in the bathroom, I'm going to focus on this one drawer or this one cupboard or this specific closet. And that's all I'm going to focus on right now. That really will help with the whole procrastination and overstimulation of trying to get started with decluttering. So your homework for today is actually pretty simple. I just want you to acknowledge whether or not you feel like clutter is an issue in your home. And if you missed the episode from last week where I took you through a checklist of determining whether or not you do struggle with clutter, I would recommend you listen to that. But then after this episode, you also now that you might be able to diagnose whether or not I do have an issue with clutter, and now you understand why it starts. It's really going to help you with your mindset to want to make a change, knowing how it's impacting you and your family or your spouse or whoever's living in your home. And I feel like it's very motivating when we realize the negative impact that clutter actually has on our mental health, on our relationships, and it really pushes us to want to make the change. So make sure that your mind is in the right place for this. And next week, when that next episode comes out, we will dive into the steps that you're going to take to start decluttering and getting your house back in order so that you can maintain that peaceful home environment that I know that you really want. Before I wrap up this episode, I just wanted to say, if you could take 30 seconds out of your day right now to go leave me a written review wherever you're listening to this podcast, it would make my day. It really, really, really helps this show to grow and help reach new listeners just like you, because that's the goal here. Is I want to reach as many people as I can to help them out and to connect with them and bless them in whatever way that God leads. And so if you wouldn't mind leaving that review, it really blesses me and helps me continue on with this podcast. Also, if you ever have questions or there's a certain topic that you would love for me to discuss, go ahead and email me at hello@jynaeschmid.com. I know my name's kind of a hard name to spell, so JYNAESCHMID.com, hello@jynaeschmid.com again. I have the link for that in my show notes below if you'd like to see it. But go ahead, reach out to me, send me an email, even if you just want to discuss something about an episode that you already listened to or you would like some more information. I would love to hear from you. I'd love to see your name come up in my inbox. And again, if there's something that you would love to hear more on or a topic that you feel like you could really use some more information on, just let me know and I'd be happy to get back to you and consider what you've said. So in summary, today we uncovered the reasons clutter builds up and how it quietly impacts your mental health, your relationships, and your overall quality of life. Understanding the why behind clutter is a powerful first step because it helps us see clutter for what it truly is and what it's costing us. In the next episode, like I mentioned, we'll dive into how you can get started with decluttering. I'll be sharing actionable, simple steps you can take to start getting your home in order in a way that feels manageable and rewarding instead of overwhelming. We want to keep this simple. So don't miss that episode when it comes out next week. Make sure you subscribe to this channel so that you don't miss out. And then until then, take a moment, like I said, to reflect on your own space. What's one area where clutter feels like it's really weighing you down, or your spouse or your children or just your family in general? Where is it weighing you down? Just recognizing the problem can be the first big step forward. Before you go, if this podcast has encouraged or helped you in any way, the best way that you can show your support is by subscribing to the show and leaving a written 5-star review. Your words truly make my day and remind me why I love sharing here. You can also snap a screenshot of this episode and share it with a friend or post it to your Instagram stories. Make sure to tag me at Her Stable Home. Thanks so much for listening, friend. I will see you next time.